It was an ordinary Wednesday morning when Rachel Thompson found herself walking into the office, bracing for what she thought would be another typical day at work. She had no idea that by the end of that day, her life would be changed forever. As she sat at her desk, answering emails and preparing for a meeting, the phone call that came through would set the stage for a dramatic chain of events. Rachel had been a loyal employee at her high-powered corporate job for nearly 5 years, never once thinking her day-to-day tasks could intersect with the lives of some of the most influential figures in the country. But that day, as a member of a volunteer group organizing charity events, she found herself doing something completely unexpected. Little did she know, this small act of kindness would lead her down a path that would turn everything she knew upside down. You see, that morning, Barron Trump, the youngest son of the former U.S. president, was attending a charity gala for the first time. The event was buzzing with the kind of glitz and glamour that only the wealthy elite could create. And amidst all of the spectacle, there was Rachel. As part of her volunteer duties, she was tasked with assisting the VIP guests, making sure everything was running smoothly. But it wasn't just any guest she was tasked with, it was Barron. Rachel had never met the Trump family before, and honestly, she didn't expect to ever cross paths with them. She had heard of Barron, of course. He had been in the media from time to time, often depicted as the quiet and reserved son of a very public family. But Rachel wasn't there to fawn over him or treat him any differently. She was simply there to do her job. And yet in that brief moment, something extraordinary happened. As she escorted Barron to his seat, he seemed overwhelmed by the attention and the noise around him. Unlike the others in the room who were busy networking or discussing business deals, Barron appeared distant, almost like he didn't belong there. In an uncharacteristic moment of empathy, Rachel leaned in and offered him a few words of comfort. A small gesture, really. Something many people might not even notice. But it was enough to make a difference. Barron looked at her, his face softening, and smiled, grateful for the kindness that he hadn't expected in such a high-profile setting. For Rachel, it felt like nothing more than a simple act of kindness. But little did she know it would come with consequences. The very next day, everything changed. When Rachel arrived at work, she was called into her manager's office. Her heart sank as she walked down the hallway, the air feeling heavy with tension. She could sense that something wasn't right, but nothing could have prepared her for the words that came next. Her manager, a stern woman who had never shown much warmth, looked at Rachel with a mixture of disappointment and frustration in her eyes. "Rachel, I need to let you go," her manager said. "We've received a complaint about your behavior at the gala. The company has decided that your actions are no longer in line with our values, and we have no choice but to terminate your employment." Rachel's mind spun as the words hit her like a freight train. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Fired. For being kind. How was that even possible? But it was real. And the shock of it all left her breathless. She didn't know how to respond, other than to shake her head in disbelief. This wasn't what she expected, not in a million years. As Rachel walked out of her manager's office, numb with shock, she couldn't help but wonder if helping Barron Trump had somehow led to this. Had someone on the inside taken offense to her kind gesture? Or was there something else going on behind the scenes that she didn't understand? But that was just the beginning of the storm that would soon engulf her life. What came next was beyond anything she could have ever imagined. As she walked out of the building for the final time, clutching her belongings in a box, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was some kind of spam, but then curiosity got the best of her. She opened the message, and what she read next made her heart skip a beat. The message read, "Congratulations, Rachel. Your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine. Meet me at the address in the next message. Trust me, you won't regret it. Who could this be? And why was someone reaching out to her in the midst of all of this chaos? Rachel's mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear. This message was not random. It felt intentional. And in a strange way, it felt like the universe was nudging her toward something big, something life-altering. But Rachel didn't know if she should trust this mysterious message. After all, she had just lost her job for something as simple as helping a young man in need of kindness. Was this just another trap, or was it an opportunity? The choices in front of her were dizzying. Should she take the risk and follow the instructions in the message? Or should she walk away and try to rebuild her life from the ground up? The uncertainty was overwhelming, but one thing was for sure. Whatever was coming next, it would change everything. Rachel stared at her phone screen, the words from the mysterious message flashing in front of her. Congratulations, Rachel. Your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine. She swallowed hard. Her mind was racing, but there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the pull of curiosity. Who would be reaching out to her after everything that had happened? Could this be a scam? Was it someone trying to exploit her misfortune? Or was it something more? Something that could possibly offer her a way out of the mess she found herself in. She stood there in the parking lot, staring at the phone, unsure of what to do. Part of her wanted to ignore the message, to put her head down and try to rebuild her life on her own terms. But another part of her, the part that was feeling vulnerable and desperate after being fired so abruptly, wanted to know what this was all about. What if this was a chance to turn everything around? Against her better judgment, she tapped on the second message in the thread. It contained an address, a location not too far from where she stood. The thought of going to a strange location on the word of an anonymous person made her stomach churn, but she knew she couldn't back out now. Not after everything that had happened. Rachel drove to the address, trying to calm her nerves as she approached. The building was tucked away in an alley, almost hidden from plain sight. It wasn't the kind of place she would normally go to. It looked unremarkable, even a little dilapidated. Her heart beat a little faster as she parked and stepped out of her car. She glanced around, looking for any signs of life or any indication that she was about to make a huge mistake. But everything seemed quiet. Too quiet. Taking a deep breath, Rachel walked to the door and knocked. She could hear footsteps approaching from inside, and her pulse quickened. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a man standing in the doorway. He was tall, with a sharp jawline, dressed in a black suit. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, he didn't say a word. "Are you Rachel Thompson?" he finally asked, his voice low and serious. Rachel nodded, unsure of what to say. "Yes, I received a message from this number. I'm here because I don't know what else to do." The man studied her for a moment before stepping aside and motioning for her to come in. "Come in, we need to talk." Inside, the room was dimly lit, sparsely furnished, with only a few chairs and a large desk that looked like it had seen better days. The man gestured for Rachel to sit down, and she did, her hands trembling as she folded them in her lap. She still had no idea who this person was or what he wanted, but the tension in the air was palpable. There was a quiet intensity to the room that made her feel like she was walking into something much bigger than herself. "I know what happened yesterday," the man said, his gaze never leaving hers. "And I know you're probably wondering why I reached out to you. It's because I believe you have a unique opportunity, an opportunity that could change your life. But I need you to trust me." Rachel felt her heart skip a beat. She didn't trust him, not entirely. But after everything that had happened, she had nothing left to lose. "Why me?" she asked. "Why would I be involved in whatever this is?" The man's lips curled into a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. You might not realize it, but your actions at the gala caught the attention of some very powerful people. Helping Barron Trump wasn't just an act of kindness. It was a signal, a message that you could be trusted, that you were someone with the right mindset to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Rachel's mind was spinning, but I was just being nice. I didn't do it to make a statement or to get noticed by anyone. That's exactly why it worked, the man replied. Most people would have ignored Barron or treated him like any other VIP guest. But you didn't. You treated him like a person, not a figurehead. That made a lasting impression. People are always looking for authenticity, for someone who is genuine. And that's what you showed. Rachel felt a strange mixture of pride and confusion. She had never considered herself someone who stood out, someone special. She was just doing her job, trying to make a difference in the small ways she could. But now this man was telling her that her simple act of kindness had set something in motion. He leaned forward, his eyes piercing through her. There are people who want to see you succeed, Rachel. People who can help you rebuild your life. But first, you need to prove you're willing to take a risk. A risk. Rachel had already taken so many risks, moving to a new city, leaving her family behind to follow her dreams, trusting that her hard work would pay off. But none of it had led her to this moment. None of it had prepared her for the choice she now faced. "What kind of risk?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The man smiled. "The kind that will change everything. All I can tell you right now is that you'll be given the chance to be part of a movement, a secret group that has the power to influence major events. The connections you'll make, the doors that will open. You'll have everything you've ever dreamed of if you're willing to step into this world. But there are consequences, Rachel. The moment you say yes, you'll be bound to this path." Rachel's breath caught in her throat. A movement, a secret group. The weight of his words was sinking in, but she still wasn't sure if she understood fully. Was this some kind of offer she couldn't refuse, or was it a trap? But just as she was about to ask another question, the man stood up abruptly. "I can't explain everything right now. But know this, you have a choice to make. The clock is ticking. You need to decide." Rachel felt her chest tighten, the pressure of the moment building as she tried to make sense of what was happening. A choice. A decision that could alter the course of her entire future. And then, as it von cue, her phone buzzed again. She pulled it from her pocket, her hands shaking as she read the message that had just come through. It was from the same unknown number. "Remember, Rachel, every choice has consequences. You're not just helping someone anymore. You're helping to shape the future." Rachel's hands trembled as she read the message, her heart pounding. "Remember, Rachel, every choice has consequences. You're not just helping someone anymore. You're helping to shape the future." The words were cryptic, haunting even, and for the first time since this whirlwind of events began, she felt the weight of what was being asked of her. This wasn't just some offer. This was a pivotal moment, one that could completely reshape her life. Her mind raced, replaying the conversations and decisions she'd made so far. The gala, the encounter with Barron Trump, the mysterious man in the darkened room. It all seemed like a chain of events leading to something bigger. But what exactly? What was this movement the man had spoken of? And why did she have to be part of it? For a long moment, Rachel stood frozen, her eyes still fixed on the glowing screen. She had always prided herself on making decisions based on logic and caution. But here, in this strange new world, the stakes were higher than anything she had ever faced. If she chose to follow through with this, there would be no going back. She would be part of something far beyond her understanding, something that could either elevate her or destroy her. The man watched her closely, sensing her hesitation. "You're scared," he said softly. "And that's okay. But you don't have to make this decision alone. There are others, people like you, who have chosen to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They didn't know what they were walking into either, but they're stronger for it. They have influence, access, and power, things most people only dream of." Rachel clenched her fists. The allure of power, of influence, of finally having control over her own destiny. Was it enough to overcome her doubts? She thought about her life before this. The long hours at work, the quiet dissatisfaction, the feeling of being overlooked. This was her chance to break free, to be part of something that mattered. But at what cost? "I need more," Rachel said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "I need to know what this really is." "What are you asking me to do?" The man smiled, like he had been expecting this question all along. He sat back down, his expression serious. "It's not about what we ask you to do. It's about what you can do. There's a window of opportunity right now, Rachel, and you can either walk through it or let it close forever. The choice is yours. But know that whatever you choose, you will never be the same. This isn't about fame or riches. This is about changing the course of history. And you're one of the few who has the chance to be part of it." Rachel sat in silence, the weight of his words sinking in. She felt the gravity of the situation press against her chest. This wasn't just about a job or a moment of fame. It was about a legacy, her place in a bigger picture. But it was also about trust, and that was the hardest part to accept. How could she trust someone who had appeared out of nowhere with such an incredible offer? And then, just as quickly as the tension had built, something in Rachel clicked. She realized that she didn't have to understand everything right now. She didn't need all the answers. What she needed was to believe in herself, to trust that she had the power to shape her own future. "I'm in," Rachel said, her voice calm but resolute. "I'll do it." The man nodded approvingly, a glint of satisfaction in his eyes. "Good, I knew you would. Welcome to the next chapter of your life, Rachel. You'll receive your first assignment soon. And trust me, once you start, there's no turning back." With those final words, Rachel felt a strange sense of certainty wash over her. She had made her choice. She didn't know exactly what lay ahead, but she was ready to face it head-on. She wasn't just another employee fired for a misplaced act of kindness. She was now part of something far bigger, something that had the potential to change everything. The man stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. Rachel followed suit, her mind buzzing with a mix of fear and excitement. She stepped out of the dimly lit room, back into the world that had seemed so uncertain just moments before. But now she saw it through different eyes. She had taken the first step on a path that no one else could walk for her. As she left the building, Rachel glanced down at her phone one last time. A new message had arrived. "Time to make your move. The world is watching." Rachel didn't know who had sent it, or what her next move would be. But she knew one thing for sure. Her life was no longer in her own hands. It was in the hands of something much bigger. And as the door to the building closed behind her, she couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of a journey that would take her places she had never imagined. But the biggest question remained, was she ready for everything that was coming next? And more importantly, what would the consequences be? She wasn't sure yet, but she was about to find out.